Well, activists say the G7 has fallen short in the face of the biggest health emergency in a century and a climate catastrophe. Anna Marriott is health policy advisor for Oxfam, Great Britain, and she joins us now to speak a bit more about this. What's your reaction to the promises the G7 leaders have made today?
Well, unfortunately, I don't think we need history. We don't need to wait for history to judge that this has been a colossal failure. As you say, the world is facing the biggest health emergency of a century and a climate catastrophe that is damaging our planet and putting people's lives and livelihoods at risk, yet the G7 leaders failed to meet the challenges of our time. And I think if we look back on the history of the G7, I don't think there's actually been a bigger gap between what we needed to see in terms of actions from the G7 leaders and the world's needs.
I mean, today, and I suppose this three-day summit was really a moment where they could have taken bold, affirmative action. What more do you think they could have done?
They could have and they should have taken much more ambitious action because of these twin catastrophes that we're facing right now. So on the vaccine front, what we saw was a trickle of charity. Doses donated that, yes, are urgently needed, but just a drop in the ocean in terms of what the scale of need. What we actually needed to see was the G7 leaders coming together and agreeing to lift the intellectual property rules on these vaccines, on the science and the know-how, and to ensure that the vaccine recipes were shared with qualified manufacturers around the world so we could ramp up production and everyone can get access. We have an extreme vaccine supply crisis. We need 11 billion doses to get to that target of achieving worldwide vaccination by the end of next year. What we got was this insignificant trickle of charity. Every dose counts, and we know that every dose will protect lives, but what we saw was far short of what was needed.
And you said as well that there was also a failure on the climate change front. And what more could they have done to battle that particular issue?
Well, we have a decade-long promise to deliver $100 billion in climate financing. 50% of that should be going to help countries cope with the severe impacts of climate change right now, change that they didn't create, but the G7 did in large part through their emissions. But we didn't see any new significant measures taken by the G7 leaders to get up to that $100 billion promise, so another broken promise. And we also didn't see any significant new measures announced to reduce carbon emissions deeper and faster. We know that that is massively required in the next 9 years if we're going to keep global warming at bay. We just saw a rehash of existing commitments. What we needed was new, ambitious commitments, especially as the UK government is hosting the UN climate talks later this year, really significant moment. What we needed to see was ambition on the part of the developed countries so that we could get a really meaningful and concrete agreement on both reducing emissions but also significantly ramping up climate financing towards the end of this year. We didn't see that. We need to see more ambition in the coming weeks and months if we are to secure something significant by the end of this year.
Okay, Anna Marriott, I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there, but thank you very much for your time. Anna Marriott there speaking to us. She's the health policy advisor for Oxfam, Great Britain. Thank you very much.